we're now going to move on with a phenomenal session. We had so much fun with this yesterday. It is the CEO Hot Seat, a high-stakes session where the CEOs of the biggest brands in the industry will face tough, anonymous questions submitted by experts from the global iGaming community. No topic is off limits, and no question is too controversial for this thrilling game of chance. I am thrilled to welcome back to the stage our phenomenal moderator who's going to introduce his guests. Please give it up for the CEO of PressEnter Group, Lahcene Merzoug. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you, Lahcene.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the CEO Hot Seat, the panel where we put influential leaders from our industry under the spotlight and ask them questions that they normally don't get. My name is Lahcene Merzoug, and I'll be moderating this session. But before I go into the details of how the hot seat works, I would like to introduce our panelists on stage. So please help me welcome Alexandre Tomic, founder and CEO, Alea. Idan Levy, CEO, HighRoller. Paris Smith, gaming and sports betting advisor, Pinnacle. Jennie Strandberg, CEO, Weekend. And Pontus Lindwall, CEO, Betsson Public. I think most of you know them and that they don't require much of an introduction. But nevertheless, I'm going to let them say a few words about themselves before we get started. Alex, why don't you start?
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here today. My name is Alexandre Tomic. I'm the founder and CEO of Alea. We've been a B2C operation for years, and now we are a game aggregator.
Thank you. Idan.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Idan. I'm a father of 3, husband of 1, 14 years experience in the industry, and the proud CEO of HighRoller.
Thank you.
And I'm Paris Smith.
Sorry, can we get the mic for Paris working?
I'm Paris Smith, and I've recently stepped down as CEO, but they still allowed me to come. And I'm going to be advising the industry as well as Pinnacle. Pinnacle has B2B and B2C, and we're going to be celebrating 25 years this year.
Thank you. Jennie.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jennie. I'm a CEO for Weekend. We're a B2B business who provide managed services and front-end to operator partners to help run successful iGaming casino brands.
Thank you, Jennie.
I'm Pontus Lindwall. I'm the father of 6, and I'm probably the oldest person in the iGaming industry. I'm the founder of NetEnt and Betsson, and I'm CEO of Betsson, so very happy to be here.
Today's concept is partly inspired by the British TV show Mastermind, where contestants have to answer questions on a specific topic of their choice. But here we have 5 CEOs who have agreed to answer questions on any topic related to their businesses, our industry, or themselves. The rules are simple. One by one, each CEO will sit in the hot seat and be questioned by me for 5 minutes. A big timer will be shown on the screen to see how much time we have left. The questions I'll be asking today will be hard sometimes, and they're a mix of my own topics sent in from the other CEOs in the panel, industry journalists, and colleagues. Those of you who have seen my other panels know that I always try to deliver something that you haven't seen or heard before. This way we get away from all the standard PR answers. And this panel is no exception. I promise you that you will learn something new about these CEOs and their businesses today. At some point during each hot seat, I will stop the timer and allow one of the other CEOs to ask a guest question. This will add some spice to the mix and perhaps create some interesting dynamics between the panelists. And one more thing, any questions that I have started asking before the timer reaches 0 will require them to answer. And before we get started, it's important to point out that all CEOs willingly signed up for this different line of questions. They're not here to be grilled or humiliated, but to be challenged and stimulated. The CEOs can choose to pass on any question, but of course we prefer if they answer them all. So are you ready for the hot seat? Let's give a big round of applause to our brave panelists. So to kick off this panel, I would like to give Alex Tomic all the way to the hot seat. Welcome. Could we please go ahead and start the timer? Alex, I really enjoyed listening to Pierre's podcast with you last week, and you mentioned that you sometimes flirt with ChatGPT to get better service, which is fantastic. I'm like Pierre there. I actually find myself sometimes writing, please, could you? But that made me want to ask you, what's the most bizarre question you have ever asked ChatGPT?
Actually, I don't think it's about the type of content. I mean, we've had a lot of conversation, don't get me wrong, and about very, very different topics. It's more about the tone. So if I'm in a hurry, I would just come, I won't say hi, and I would say, like the other day, write me a bio for Liam Mulvaney. He was on a panel with me yesterday, and it will answer, Liam is singer and songwriter coming from a small town of Ireland. And I passed that actually to iGaming Next team for his bio.
So when we get robot AI girlfriends, you're first in line, basically.
Say again?
When we get robot AI girlfriends, you're first in line.
I don't know, but let's say I would play with it.
That's fun. Let's go to the next question. Alex, you are running a famous aggregator in our industry, and I would like to know how you respond to the claim that aggregators are often a gateway into black markets for suppliers.
I mean, we can say it's a reality because aggregator adds a layer between the operator, the player, the regulator, whoever you want, and the software provider. Whether it's a company that's in between or just in the technical flow, okay? So it could be used as that. It has been used as that. There are very big companies that build their own aggregator just for that. We have a lot of research groups that are researching evolution lately because evolution is becoming an aggregator, and they try to understand what does that exactly mean. Why is evolution entering into the aggregation business? So it could be used as that. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily need to be used as that. But
Thank you. I'm happy with that. In last year's CEO panel, we had, for example, David Flynn from Glitnor Group and Sashi Maimon from Neon Games in the panel. Mm-hmm. And when I asked the question, do you believe that platform and game providers are fully aware from what countries their products are generating revenues? They both agreed that providers do know exactly from where. Sashi even went so far as saying any provider that says differently is not telling the truth. Okay. Do you agree with them?
It's a complicated one. I try to make it as short as possible. Quickly, yes and no. If it's a platform, they know, okay? They have access to player data. They know. They know the player, they do the KYC, they see the credit cards, they see everything, so they know. They cannot pretend they don't know. If it's an aggregator or software provider, they may not know, because the IP can be obfuscated by the player or by somebody in between, all right? Now, there's another answer to that, is who inside the company knows? The business team know. The compliance team doesn't know. The business...
Do you know where all the traffic is coming from?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Okay. It's time to pause the timer, because it's time for our very first guest question of today. And the guest question going to Alex will come from Idan. Idan, please go ahead and ask Alex your question.
Thank you, Lahcene. As the founder and CEO of Alea, you guided Alea from inception. What have been the biggest risks that you have taken to ensure Alea's success in this crowded iGaming sector?
Human risks first, people you're working with, partner you're working with, you think they're reliable, they're not, you think they're benevolent, they're not, that's the first one. Regulatory risk, like everyone in this room, I think, whether we're B2B or B2C, we take a lot of regulatory risk. So what we do is, I have a high risk appetite, to be honest, but I think I'm quite good in the art of prudence. It's about navigating into muddy water, but in a very careful way. So regulatory risks, definitely. But to be honest, now thinking about it, the biggest risk are not regulatory risks. The biggest risk are people risk. Is who you deal with. You think that these people are your partner, your brother. You've been working together for 10 or 15 years. And then you find out that they are not. That are the bigger risks, and I think it's for any entrepreneur.
True. Very good answer. Thank you, Idan.
Thank you,
Alex. Let's go ahead and start the timer again. Alex, you are an outspoken proponent of psychedelics. They are now being tested in therapy around the world with great results. Do you believe psychedelics can improve work performance, or what other benefits do you think they have?
I do believe they can improve work performance. I believe they improve me and the way my brain function. I don't believe in microdosing. I've tested microdosing. I even thought at some point offering microdosing to Alea's employee. You can buy them online. It's completely, it's, no, I'm serious. It's like a coffee. It's legit. It's, you buy it, it's legal, okay? But it doesn't work. I only believe in the heroic dose, and providing a heroic dose to your employees is just something that's not possible. I mean, you need a setup. But yes, to answer your question, I believe that they really can improve cognitive functions of someone if taken maybe 1 to 4 times per year during a strong heroic experience. That is going to be very challenging, and you need a very
Thank you, Alex.
safe setup.
That's the sign that I need to ask my final question. I see you as a very humble but still confident person, Alex. But could you mention your 2 biggest insecurities in life?
Am I doing the right thing? Am I bringing value to society, doing gambling, for example? Shouldn't I do something else that brings more value? I like gambling, I like the industry, I like the people, I like the money. But at some point, shouldn't I do something else? And am I trying hard enough? And maybe that last one is the most important one. We read a lot. We understand a lot about what we should do, etc. And do we do it? In the morning, do I do the cold shower? Do I go train? Do I do my diet? Do I fast as much as I want to fast? Do I sleep well? Yeah, I know how to do all these things, but do I do them for real? Couldn't I push more?
I think just by asking the questions, you're halfway there. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
It is time for Idan to join me in the hot cell. Welcome, Idan.
Thank you.
Please go ahead and start the timer. Thank you. Idan, do you believe that the average CEO has a bigger than normal ego?
Well, first let's acknowledge that normal by itself is a challenge to define. I do believe that the CEO should have a certain confidence to make some tough decisions and lead his company. So some might call it a healthy ego.
Yeah. A normal ego for me is a healthy sense of what allows a person to interact in a balanced way. But higher than normal ego, on the other hand, it can lead to perhaps feeling superior to others. Do you think CEOs feel superior in average?
I think there should be a balance between self-belief and humility and openness to learn. I will explain. Self-belief allows you and gives you the courage to make those decisions and lead the company. But humility ensures that you remain open to new perspectives and you really listen and you can grow from that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Lahcene, it's not about an ego. It's about having two big ears and using them to really listen to your team, to your clients, and to the industry.
So CEOs have a bigger self-belief than average then, perhaps?
They should have a balance, yeah.
Thank you. Prior to joining HighRoller, you were COO of Genesis Global. We all read about Genesis Global's bankruptcy in our industry media, and you worked there for 5.5 years and left 6 months before it happened. What was your reaction to how the things ended at Genesis Global?
Genesis was a good company to work for. I joined Genesis at its early stage. In fact, I was the first one coming to Malta with the mandate to open the operations team. The company grew from 20 to 300 employees who created a really good culture and a successful company. Like any company, it had ups and downs, but nothing alarming while I was there.
So you didn't have a hunch of what was about to happen, and it didn't affect that you in fact left before it happened?
As you mentioned, I left much earlier than it happened, 6 months before, and it was for a career progression. I resigned from Playtech 7 years ago to go to Genesis. I resigned from Genesis to go on this amazing journey as the CEO of HighRoller. So it's all about career progression.
True.
What ended with Genesis is very fortunate, especially for the employees that were there at the time. One can only sympathize with that.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and pause the timer, please, because it's time for our second guest question of today. And the guest question to Idan will come from Jennie. Jennie, please go ahead.
So, Idan, today a lot of the tier 1 operators are moving away from VIP programs due to the responsible gambling risks. And you are CEO of a company called HighRoller. So what's your take on this? And is your strategy involving picking up these players that other operators are turning away?
At HighRoller, we believe that providing a VIP environment and promoting responsible gaming are not contradicting one another, or the opposite. They should go hand in hand. The team of HighRoller collectively has more than 100 years of experience in the iGaming industry. It's a team of professionals that I really am proud of. We have implemented the know-how of how to cater VIP players. But before that, at the heart of what we do is responsible gaming and safer environment. We truly believe in that. And that is the basis of all we do. We have implemented a lot of procedures and processes and a lot of automation to measure the player's behavior from day one. And before we kick in our VIP program, we make sure that everything is safe.
I think we have to stop you there. Thank you very much for the question.
But send me all the VIPs, I will be happy to have them.
Please go ahead and start the timer again. So HighRoller is an RG-friendly name, you think?
Yes.
Perfect. You have an Estonian license. Is that better than, for example, an MJ license and a Curacao license? And if so, why?
Our group has many licenses in different jurisdictions. In my opinion, it doesn't matter where you operate. At the end of the day, each regulator wants the operator to make sure that he's providing a safe environment to his players. There is no better or worse, in my opinion. It's all about that safe environment and making sure that the industry is also safe of crime.
But do you think the ARPU, the average revenue per user, is higher with an Estonian license targeting the same country as an MJ license?
ARPU is not about the jurisdiction. It's about your know-how, how you implement it, and what you do with your players. And allow me a short story, I promise, a really short one. I check competitors. I went a few operators. I opened accounts with my real name. You can Google me. And I went to one of the biggest one. It was still the biggest because we are still at early stages, but HighRoller are catching up. And I opened an account. I made a substantial deposit, don't worry, with my means, guys. And I played as a VIP. I wanted to see what happens. When I finished, I went on chat and I asked, I will do quickly, do you have anything to offer to a VIP? And I got a reply, there is nothing to offer to a regular player. We will contact you, don't contact us. So do that at HighRoller and see what happens. We embrace you, we hug you. So it's not about the jurisdiction, Lahcene, it's about how you handle your players.
Time for the final question then. What is something regarding our industry that you believe to be true, but most people would disagree with you on?
I think that the industry is going towards entertainment and not just pure gambling, the classic gambling. We are competing not only with each other, we are competing with classic entertainment and screen time like Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, etc. Those who will embrace the concept that we need to embed entertainment within the gaming industry, I believe will lead the market.
Thank you very much, Idan. It's time for Paris to join me in the hot seat. Please go ahead and start the timer. Paris, when did you Google yourself the last time?
It's always complicated, Googling myself, but I did do it right before the Ontario interview that I had for the gaming license.
And did you find any surprises?
No,
No.
just reminders.
That's good. After being on a senior post for as long as you have, CEO for Pinnacle for 17 years, do you still have any areas in your leadership that you feel that you need to improve?
Yes, there's always room for improvement. I think, I'm very nurturing, and I love to set people up for success. And looking back, I think, reviewing people's performance, trying to push, help them to succeed, sometimes I allowed it to go too long. So, we have a high-performing culture in Pinnacle, and, it's not for everybody.
No, thank you. Pinnacle are known as esports expert. I just have to ask you, how much Counter-Strike have you played the last few years?
If we could rephrase that to how much Counter-Strike have I watched? Because I've played 0. I have watched over 20 hours because I went to a 2-day event with PaySafe and literally sat there for 8.5 hours a day. And then I've also been to the internationals with Grid and sat. It's a long game watching that.
It's a long game. A lot of fun. Thank you. You just recently left your post as CEO for Pinnacle after 17 years. What actually happened?
I think there was so many, there's so many changes in the industry. I started 28 years ago. So in that time, the internet wasn't even a thing. There was no option of casino betting. And it's evolved so much. It's not the same. And I really felt like fresh eyes would be a good opportunity for the organization. And also, when Pinnacle pulled out of the U.S. market, bringing it from a hero, it went down to 0 and more successful than it is today, than it was yesterday or back in 2006. It's time for the next step for me.
In a nutshell, what are you most and least proud over at Pinnacle, with short answers?
The culture and the people is what I'm most proud of. And the least proud would be, I think for 12 years I've spoken about the user experience on Pinnacle, and it hasn't changed as much as I wanted it to.
Very honest reply, thank you. Please go ahead and pause the timer, because it's time for Paris's guest question, and the guest question will come from Pontus. Please go ahead and ask the question, Pontus.
Yes, I will. So Paris, you're a female in a male-dominated industry. Have you had any obstacles because of this throughout your career? And what do you think men can do better in this industry to invite more women?
So being in the industry, I was really oblivious to the challenges that I was having. And even within the last month, stepping back, I can see that I did have to work harder. I had to explain more. I had to be more diplomatic because I have people have told me I have a bit of a strong personality. So I'd, have to oversell what I knew was obvious and to get the buy-in for everybody. So that was one of the biggest challenges. And then what could men do differently to invite more women into the industry? I think there is a subconscious bias that people are unaware of. We've actually put up, there's a tool you can use to look at your job descriptions that you put out. And there were certain managers that it would predominantly be male, 90%. And then, so we taught everybody how to be more open to that and change that. And when we changed it, then you get more females that apply for the jobs. And I think it's just looking at the quality of the person and understanding the additional benefits, the empathy, the multitasking capability that most women have, and embracing those could definitely help.
Thank you very much, Paris. Well spoken. Please go ahead and start the timer again.
Thank you, Pontus.
We have all heard for, 10, 15 years that esport is the future of betting, but it never became the hit that everybody expected. Why do you think that is?
It is a hit. The problem is the lack of understanding of the ecosystem. So it starts with the data, and then there's the actual betting product, and then it's the marketing to get the players. So, the complication comes when the data providers charge more than what somebody could actually make. Yep. And the companies don't understand how to do risk management, and that's the biggest issue. And then, there's B2B companies, obviously Pinnacle Solutions one, Odin's one, that if you market and if you actually commit to saying, these people are going to market esports, you will have a higher success.
What's the next big thing within sports betting then?
Within esports, there's mobile esports. That's coming on extremely strong. All the different esports providers are aware of it, and it touches a very different and more vast group of people.
And sports betting in general, what do you think?
And sports betting in general, there's not a lot of new things coming. I think it's just better live experience is probably going to be on the forefront.
We're running out of time, so I'm going to ask you a final question. I see you as a real power player in the industry, and I know a lot of people enjoy listening to you in different panels. Is there anyone in particular in the industry that you look up to, and why?
You have to mention a Bet365 as the organization for sure. Stake has a lot of balls, got to give them that. But the one group that I really admire is my esteemed colleague's company, Pontus, with Betsson, because they have multiple verticals. They have a very sustainable business model. They've done a phenomenal job. They're not complacent, and it shows with their stock price, I think. So that would be one of my top picks in the
Good
industry.
answer. Thank you very much, Paris.
Thank you, Paris. You're welcome.
Let's invite Jennie Strandberg to join us in the hot seat. Please go ahead and start the timer. Jennie, if you could have a 2-minute call with anyone, living or dead, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Oh, that's easy. Britney Spears.
Oh.
Is she really still with us, or?
She's with us, I think.
Or is all of her social media presence deepfake? Is her public appearances body doubles? I think anyone who's been down that rabbit hole with me agrees that we deserve some answers.
Good answer. Survival rates for casino startups are alarmingly low, with just 2 out of 10 making it beyond the crucial 6-month mark. You and your company, you specialize in helping operators. What's your two best advice for startups and struggling casinos?
I think my first answer will lie in the question, and that is to realize just that only 2 out of 10 will actually succeed. So when you do embark on creating your company, be realistic about the funding that you have and be realistic about the financial planning that you're doing so that you can have a runway that will see you through something that won't be an immediate success. And then when you have all of that, you add another contingency sum on top for anything that might happen along the way. And we can help you with those plans as well. The second one, don't show off too much too early. You're competing with literally 1,000 other operators. And if you are trying to just please the masses and you provide a generic quantity experience to the few, to the many really, why would they see you and why would they stay with you? Rather focus on quality for the fewer while you're building up your bankroll.
Is the only viable option for these smaller operators or startups then to target dark gray or even black markets?
No, I wouldn't say so at all. I think it's a option, but let's be real as well. It's not a surefire, quick win thing to enter a black market either. You'll be paying markups on most of your services because of the complexity of the environment. You'll have very expensive acquisition. You have volatile acquisition sources. You will have issues with payments. You may even come across situations where you're not receiving the settlements at the end of the day, which you then need to have to be able to pay for your other services. It's a very tricky situation to...
How's the split for you guys? Are you helping a lot of locally regulated operators, or is it mostly on the gray side?
When we provide fully managed services, no, we do not run black operations. If we do partially managed services, say that we are providing someone with a creative project or maybe a user journey framework, then we wouldn't necessarily have that insight if they do or not. So in that sense, we wouldn't know. We could, but when we're running the operations, we don't.
So it's back to what I asked Alex in the beginning. So you don't have a full insight in where the revenue streams are coming from the customers you're helping, for example.
We do when we run the fully managed services for them. Then we have full insight. But if we are just delivering a piece of a project to someone who run their operations separately, then there's no way for us to have that insight.
Thank you. Let's pause the timer. It is time for Jennie's guest question, and the guest question will be asked by Paris. Paris, please go ahead.
Jennie, your website says that you help clients with, for example, creative marketing, UX, player communities, and loyalty programs. So if AI can do most of this for free, why would clients come to you instead of using AI?
That's a good question, and especially considering how many talks we've heard and how many news flashes we have about using AI to propel your business. I would still, as I would not advise anyone to rewire your own electricity, advise anyone to attempt to create a full-scale business using only a click of a button and AI. I would say that you still need a team of experts who knows to connect the dots, and you can rather use AI to increase the efficiency of your operations. So that's something that we do as well. As an example, we've gone from having what was usually needed 2 developers in building codes. You have one building and then you have one doing code reviews, to now instead have an AI co-pilot that will finalize codes and do the code reviews. So we are able to create brands and help our clients with more of an economical efficiency, but we still maintain that we need the highly skilled human people that we have in the business to orchestrate.
Thank you very much, Paris. Thank you. Let's go ahead and start the timer again. What do you believe to be the biggest open secret in the industry?
Oh, there's so many. Let's try to be politically correct about them as well. Perhaps, in spite of how many times we've heard and discussed and talked about the importance of data-driven decisions, agile project management and organization, what a surprising amount of businesses that are still run on outdated strategy decks, a bunch of Google documents, and prayers.
And Excel, yes. Last year in the CEO panel, I asked the panelists how we should attract more women to the industry, and I was surprised when no one actually had a really good answer. What do you think is the solution?
Ooh, that's a ballsy question to ask me when we are limited on time. But I'll try to contain myself. So I don't think that the issue with male versus women distribution is limited to gaming industry. That's a global challenge. If you're looking at gaming specifically on junior levels, there's not that big of a gap between male and female. That becomes more apparent when you go to manager levels, and then it increases the further up you go. So, I mean, if we're going to try to limit this down to 2 issues, can I quickly?
Yes.
As long as we have senior management being male-dominated, we might not want to admit it, but it's still going to be a biased interview process. So that's going to keep tripping up the game.
Thank you. The rule says I need to start asking the last question, and I want to do this.
Find me for a drink at the afters, and I'll let you know.
That's good.
I have the solution.
I want to squeeze this in. You made a fantastic journey so far, Jennie, from customer care agent to CEO in just 12 years. First of all, any tips you can give anyone how to accomplish such a journey? And also, do you ever suffer from imposter syndrome?
Oh, the imposter syndrome. Okay, so about any tips or wanting to achieve the same, I think, first of all, be very clear about what your actual aspirations and long-term priorities are going to be. In those 12 years, those aren't built on 40-hour weeks. There are a lot of choices that will need to be made, and there are several other very rewarding career opportunities and roles out there that will certainly bring a lot less pressure and stress. I would say see work as university. You're not able to just go into your scheduled classes and then you're done and successful. You will need to stay up late and study, and people aren't going to thank you for this, and they're not going to have any lenience with you when you're tired the next day. And please don't be humble enough to understand the importance of horizontal movement as well. Even sometimes taking a step back, it might not be visible as a obvious progression in your title or your payslip at that very moment, but all of this experience that you're getting is going to help you propel later on instead.
And imposter syndrome, have you felt it?
The imposter syndrome, I would say that I do not have imposter syndrome today, but that's because I've worked on it a lot. And one advice for imposter syndrome, I would say, is to realize that there's no external authority that will decide who is real and who is fake. So this is really all mental bias. It's created in your head. And if you're going to rely on creating these false perceptions of reality and live by them, you're really just setting yourself back.
Very good answer. I have to cut you short there. Thank you very much, Jennie.
Thank you.
It is time for our final panelist. Pontus, please have a seat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and start the timer. There is a theory that we live in a simulation, as Elon Musk and others have argued. The mathematical argument is that if humanity ever creates a life-like simulation, which in the tempo of tech evolution right now is pretty much non-avoidable, it will eventually spawn another simulation, and so on, creating an infinite amount of realities. And the chances of us being just another layer are then greater than us actually living in the base reality. Pontus, do we live in a simulation?
No. We live in reality. I usually simplify things, and that theory is way too complex for me.
Okay, so what's more likely to be true then, the simulation theory or Adam and Eve?
If that's the choice, then I go for Adam and Eve.
Got me? Thank you. Next question. Betsson is often compared to Kindred, perhaps due to its origin and previous core markets. In short, why do you think Kindred outgrew Betsson in the 2010s?
I think they were ahead of us on the product at that time, and we could see that, and we addressed it, and I think that was the main reason. We went for the more or less the same markets, but they were ahead of us.
So will you then outgrow Kindred in the coming, say, 5 or 10 years?
We don't, as a stock market company, give predictions like that. But if you look at the past few quarters and recently, we're on the pace like doing that, yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. Let's go ahead and pause the timer because it's actually time for the last guest question of this panel. And Pontus' guest question will come from Alex. Alex, please go ahead.
Pontus, Betsson are doing really well at the moment, which is fantastic to see. But the company cannot succeed in all of its projects. Do you consider US being a success for Betsson? And more importantly, would you have considered launching that market with a private company?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and obviously we are not really where I expected us to be at this time when we went into the US. It's been a slower process than I expected to onboard business-to-business clients. Obviously, the landscape is very competitive, and the market has shaped out differently from what we expected. We went into it, we have learned a lot there, we have created a great product, so I don't regret anything. If we would have been a private company, I think we would have made the same decision.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex. Let's go ahead and start that timer again. The entire industry followed the drama a few years ago when you actually got fired by the chairman of Betsson, who not long after that left the company when it was clear that he had not discussed the changes with the shareholders. And you shared your side of the story in a very interesting iGaming Next fireside chat. But looking back at it now, what's your biggest regret from your end for that entire episode?
I don't have many regrets from it. I mean, it came as a surprise, and it was interesting, you know, to realize that, you know, from one day to the next, suddenly I kind of realized my new future. Okay, I'm not going to be the CEO of this company. I'm going to go out biking a lot more. I'm going to do different things. But then I changed my mind and said, no, I don't believe this is a good decision. I'm going to fight against it, and that's what I did. So, but I don't regret anything from that process. It's actually the other way around. I'm proud, and I'm really happy today that I acted the way I did.
That you took the fight.
Yeah.
I know a lot of screenshots and emails showing your discussion with the chairman was circulated in the industry. I know I read a few. What happened there?
Of course, the chairman and I had different opinions. I had just delivered the best quarter in the history of the company, and I was fired. And I'm a shareholder of the company, and I wanted to keep on being a shareholder. I want to keep on developing the company. So we had different opinions, and that is what we discussed. And we couldn't agree, and finally, it sorted out itself.
Yes, thank you. How important are grey markets for Betsson, and are you striving in any way to go towards only working in locally regulated markets?
If you look at it historically, when we started like way back, everything was grey in the sense that it wasn't locally regulated. But our vision was that any country should regulate at some point of time, so it's a transition. And that's how we see it still. It's not that we aim for unregulated markets, but in some times it's good to be in a market that is about to regulate. So that's why we enter both regulated and yet to be regulated markets.
How do you judge if a market is off limits? What's the difference between Finland, Turkey, Norway, and so on?
Obviously, some markets, they express their ambition to regulate, and they're on the way. That's very clear that that's a market where we go into. Other markets which are totally, they have no intention to bring in gambling, such as some Arabian countries we would never touch. There's a totally different.
So if they have the ambition to regulate at some point.
Yeah.
That's the market. We're closing in on the last question for Pontus, but also the last question of this panel. And to ask this question, I would like to put up a picture on the big screen, please. See if I can get help with that. See if we can remove that part. I love this picture. And my final question to you is, I found this in a 2015 Dagens Industri. It's a finance newspaper in Sweden. And I really like when senior people have some self-distance and humor. And it says under the picture, Pontus Lindwall does not back down to fight powerful gambling monopolies, but though give him the chills. I have so many questions, but let's start with this one. Is it true Does dough give you the chills?
Yeah, I don't like those, and I think they smell and they are, you know, not nice. It was so funny to take this picture because the cameraman had gone into a pizzeria and said, "Can I buy 10 doughs?" And he bought 10 doughs. And then he came to the office and they were throwing this dough and taking pictures, you know, and the timing problem with that was massive. But finally they got this picture, and it's
You know,
it's a great
therapists
one.
do that if you're afraid of spiders. They do exposure.
Exactly,
You have to
that's
look
what
at...
we did there for half an hour at least.
Thank you very much. Please help me in thanking Pontus and all the other brave panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you.